Good morning. Here we are, an absolute gorgeous morning at Cuttle Mill. I'm looking over the long pool at the moment, and we're going to try and catch some fish, stalking and on surface baits. Now the one thing I want to impress on you right from the start is so many anglers come straight to the water, fancy a peg, go straight to the peg and start to fishing. Now by doing that, you've committed yourself straight away. If you don't find any fish in that peg, you see some fish over the other side, you're roaming around the lake, you go to that peg, then you go to another peg. It's not the way to start. Start like just where I am now, sitting away from the lake, isolate yourself from the lake and scan the water. What I'm going to do, pair of top class Polaroids, I'm going to scan over the water and also a pair of binoculars. Now, with this heat, there'll be a lot of fish already showing up. And already I can see lots of fish over the water, but what I want to try and find is a pocket of fish. Now let's have a closer look and see. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to scan the whole of the lake. I'm not going to make a decision on the swim till I think I've found some feeding fish. Down the bottom end of the lake there's a bit of a breeze on the water. Now there'll be fish down there later on. Fish tend to follow the wind, especially carp. If there's food in there, if there's a hatch, a buzzer hatch on there, and they'll drift down there on the wind, the carp will follow down. But in my experience, usually at this time of the day, early morning, the carp will be in the warm water, nice and still. I'm just scanning round the far side. There's an island there. I can't see any fish there at the moment, but at some time through the day you'll always find fish round an island, especially midday when the fish tend to be trying to get out of the sun, trying to get a bit of shade. You've got overhanging willows there and the fish will just lie under there nicely. Now along the far side there's a lot of trees overhanging. Can't see anything. Then we've got the big island and the lily pads. There's the odd fish. I can see the odd fish just up in the water. If you've got a bit of a breeze, if you just look at the breeze, you'll see flats. Now it should be even, the breeze, but if you get a flat, a little black spot, you can bet that's a fish. Could be £2 carp, could be £30 carp. Just keep your eyes open all the time. This is the most important part of the day. A decision now can make the difference between a good day and an absolute waste of time. So just keep scanning it like I'm doing now. Might take 5 minutes, might take 2 hours. Find the fish first. There's a big clump of lilies and there's some fish over there. Yeah, I can actually see a few fish and they're actually taking, so there's every chance they're taking a hatch, probably a buzzer hatch. Yeah, I can actually see carp. Yeah, I can see carp. To be honest, you don't have to be a brain surgeon when you see that to realise that that's the place to be. Yeah, there's a few fish showing there. I can't see anything else over the rest of the lake, so let's just go over there. Cool. There is a good few fish over there. There's not one or two. Admittedly there's some roach topping, but some of those I can actually see the lips in the binoculars, so I'm going to make a quick decision to get over there and see what's happening. One thing I'm going to say to you now is, having picked the right spot, don't march in sounding like an army rolling up with Land Rovers. We're going to take it nice and easy, all the time in the world. They're confidently feeding. What we're going to do now is just get to the swim. This is gravel. Keep off the gravel. Get on the grass and let's creep slowly to these fish. This is so important with this type of fishing. A boob now can make the difference in not catching any fish. There's a lot of fish there, a lot of fish. Let's take it nice and easy. Try and get to these fish as quietly as possible. Sometimes, instead of walking directly to the peg, wait a little, see that they're still confident, just using all the cover, using the trees as the cover all the time. Yeah, there's a fair few fish out there. It's looking good. Oh, there's a lot of fish there. Keep it quiet. Keep it nice and quiet. Nice and quiet. Use all the foliage. Remember, you're not fishing for fish that are on the bottom, you're fishing for fish that are on the top. Now, fish are very cautious on the top. It could be a herring, it could be a tern, it could be any predator. They feel vulnerable on the surface, so they're a lot more cautious and they can see you a lot easier. So keep it nice and low to the ground. Use all the foliage, keep nice and quiet. Okay, put the gear down, nice and quietly. No banging. Until we get these fish really confident on feed, then they could be spooked very easily and you could ruin the whole day. So nice and quiet. Yeah, there is some fish out there. There's lots of fish in the swim. They're just all topping, so what we'll do, nice and gently, not too many at first, and obviously taking flies or something on the surface. What I've done, I've just put a few out. Let's see if they take. Woof! They're straight onto it. God, they're straight onto the bait. Now what will happen now is the fish will take very, very slowly. They'll come up, they'll sometimes knock the tail on it, and they'll take slowly. And what we'll do, we'll keep putting feed in. Floating biscuits, we'll just keep putting those out. And this is a very, very critical time, because what we don't want to do is go straight in there with a rig and catch a fish. Get the whole shoal, because there's a lot of fish, there is a shoal of fish there. Get them all confident, and what you can actually do when you've got them that confident, you can actually catch fish without spooking the rest. If you try now, then there's every chance you'll spook the shoal and we've lost them for the rest of the day. The amount of times you hear anglers say, I had a fish first take and they had nothing all day. The reason is they've caught too soon, they haven't fed right. And if you feed quarter of an hour, 10 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, till you feel that they're feeding confident. There's a lot of bird life on the water, and within a short time, no doubt, we'll have more hens, ducks. There's a couple of geese on there that'll probably put in an appearance. Don't start clapping your hands and throwing bricks at them or nothing like that, because at the end of the day, those creatures are part of a chain of confidence for the creatures on the water and in the water. Many of the time is if you see a load of ducks in one spot, go over there and check, because very often the carp will be amongst those ducks and feeding ever so confidently. Just don't get crazy, don't put too many out, just keep it nice and constant, little and often. Like in most other forms of fishing, this feeding is probably the most important aspect of surface fishing. Those fish are really up on the bait. I'm getting them nice and tight. Just keep feeding. Those fish are really confident. The big mouths, they're usually the mirrors. And if they're really up in the water, you can tell a mirror carp from a common carp just by the scales. You can actually see that most of those in the swim now are mirrors. You see the mouth, you can see the scales. They're not big fish at the moment. There's probably fish 2 to 4 pound in there. But if we keep feeding, sooner or later, perhaps some doubles, perhaps even bigger fish, will move in and they'll bully those small fish away. They'll actually use those as a decoy and they'll get confidence from them. While they're gaining confidence on that, I'll just give them another one. While they're gaining confidence on the bait, we'll look at the tattle I've bought today. Okay, before I start talking about the rods and the rest of the gear, first of all I think it's worth mentioning that to stalk and to catch fish in the circumstances that we are today, the thing to do is dress pretty drab. No sort of red and yellow t-shirts and things like that, or white shirts. Try and keep it down so you're pretty drab, blues, greens, etc. Now what I've done is I've put on a waistcoat that it's got loads of pockets in. If you look, there's loads of pockets that I can put all my scissors, forceps, even there I can put hooks, etc. Loads of pockets, all my gear's in there, my glasses, etc. Okay, let's go across, and what I'll do, I'll just put a little more bait out, because although we're talking, we can still get those fish being kept confident. The more we feed, the more they're eating without being hooked, the more confident they're getting. Okay. Now, there's hundreds of different types of carp rods. Most of them are made of hologlass or carbon fibre. The modern day carp rods are all made out of carbon fibre. This one's made out of carbon fibre. It's got a fairly through action. This one, for this rig that I'll show you later, it's a very powerful blank, but as you'll see when I explain the rig, it has to be powerful because it's a self-hooking rig, and that power there is the thing that actually hooks the fish. Okay, the reel, it's a bait runner type reel, thick spool, quite a large one, large capacity of line, and it has this facility that is a bait runner. You see, line doesn't play off there like so, but when it's hit there, line pays off. That's the take that we'll get. The fish will run off, but as soon as we engage, that's gone over again, and it's back into normal play on the clutch. They're super reels. In fact, I use this type of reel now for all my carp fishing. The chair, when I'm setting up, keep it nice and quiet. I don't bring the bed chair. On this type of fishing, I don't want to be too comfortable. I'm not going to fall asleep. Put it in a spot that you can see the carp, but they can't see you. This is a useful little bit of tack actually, because you see, if I was on a sloping bank, I could be level, or even the other way, you see, like that. So it's a smashing little bit of tack. I've just got to carry it on there just so I can carry it on my back. Those fish are taking nice now. Let me just, I can't tell you enough times to keep doing this. Keep putting the bait out. Once the fish are there, don't let them go anywhere. That's great. Okay, I've not got a hold all. What I've in fact has got is a sling. I've got my rods already made up. Just fits nicely over there like that. Nice and mobile, nice and light, and holds all the gear that we want. That's a special rod rest that I'll be showing again when I actually fish. It's a smashing type of rod rest. It's one that I use a lot in surface fishing. All that happens is that goes in the ground, and actually that can fit perfectly into there like so. We can hold the rod high, keep all the line off the water. Nice bit of kit. That's that. The landing net, very large landing net. I always use a large landing net. The amount of times that you'll have the mickey taken out of you for having such a large landing net, but at the end of the day, you're after a big fish, and you don't want to be struggling with a small pan net. And this should be one of the first items of tackle you buy. I'm keeping my eye out there in the swim, because those fish are still showing, but they've run out of feed yet again. I'll give them some more in a second. There's the large landing net. It's a bow net, fits into the spreader block there. Large net. Remember, when you land the fish, don't lift the fish on that or you're going to break it. Land the fish, pull the net towards you, then grab the net. The amount of times people lift and actually snap this, or you're only on a 5/8 thread there, you could break the thread. So be careful. Let's put that in the swim ready. I'll place it down there, nice and quietly, everything nice and quietly. Rods and reels, which I'll show you the various rigs on later. We've got my bag with all my bits and pieces in. There's my unhooking mat, which I'll place over here, so that when we land a fish, we'll not damage it. Not on the hard ground, we can just put the fish on there. My boxes with all my various bits and pieces in, different rigs, etc. Place them all out the way. A lot of boxes tend to be white, that type of colour. I have them behind the bushes, and then no fish can see it. So you're sound. The scales, my waist sling, I'll put those over by there again. Everything nicely in position. We've finished with this bag now. Place that well out the way. I want the swim nice and tidy, so that we can start fishing. But when we do start fishing, we're not going to be treading on things, breaking things. As soon as we get a take, we're not going to trip over the landing net or the bags that I brought with me. I'm nicely set up now. What we'll do now, we'll have a look at the bait. Okay, those are some of the baits. I'll just get the rest. And I'll sit down. Nice and easy. What I'll do, first off again, this is so important, as in any type of fishing, that feed has got to keep going in. If you stop, you could lose the fish. At all time, keep it going in. If I just carried on talking and let them go, might take me a couple of hours, if not all day, to get them back. Okay, let's talk about this bag of baits and what's in here. 3 catapults. There's nothing worse than just bringing 1 catapult. You could break it first time out, then you're stuck without a catapult. You can't throw them that distance. They're very light baits. The baits that I'll be showing you are very light. So 3 catapults, that should last all day. Okay. The binoculars, which you saw earlier. Right. These are a selection of floating baits. Now, carp have been taken on floating baits for many, many years. Years ago, it was always on crust, because that was the only thing anglers knew that floated. Later on, we used things like marshmallows and then floating maggots. But now, if you go to any supermarket and buy things like a pedigree chum, floating trout pellets, anything like that, anything that floats basically, that's a cat biscuit or a dog biscuit, will catch a hell of a lot of carp. I've got a selection of them, various sizes. Some days you'll find that the large floating trout pellet will score, like that. Sometimes the very small dog and cat biscuits will score. Try the various sort. In fact, if you shoot a mixture out, sometimes you'll see that there's some baits being left. Usually the larger ones at the start. When you put the baits out, the larger ones are the one that's being left. The smaller ones are the ones that are usually taken. When they really get confident, then they'll be taking baits like this, the larger ones. Okay? What I do, sometimes giving them an added bit of an edge, I sometimes flavour them. Strawberry, banana, Scopix and Squiddy Diddy. I think those are probably my favourite 4. Most of them sweet, and that one sometimes you can get more takes on the crabby squid type flavour. Okay, you can also buy shop bought boilers. These are float. You can actually do the same with your own boilers that you make. What you do is you actually put them in a microwave for a couple of minutes. Just try it, experiment with a few, and what it'll do, it'll give a crusty effect, and you've got a crusty boiler that floats. Okay? But we won't only fish on the surface, we'll also fish on the bottom. And what I've got is some sinking trout pellets. What I'll do sometimes when I'm even floater fishing, I'll put those in first, get the carp used to bait going down, and they'll start coming up in the water, and then when you put those on the top, you've actually brought them up through these sinking trout pellets, and actually you catch them on those. Okay? I've got a big bag of hemp with me, because if I see some bubblers, see the bubbles coming up, you've all seen it. When you walk around, we might put a float or a ledger, whatever. We'll talk about that later when we see some bubbles, and then I'll put the hemp on top of them, fish some luncheon meat or something like that over the top of them. And that's about it. We've looked at the bait. Now let's put some rigs together, put the bait on, then we can start fishing. Let's look at some rigs. Let's move this out the way. Again, make sure everything's hid from the sight of those carp. White bags tucked away nicely. And again, first things first, some more bait out there. I think those carp would actually take a well to that out now, let alone a bait. They're so confident in it. Right. The first rig that I'm going to show is probably the most devastating rig for surface anglers ever. It's called the beach rig. It's fairly simple. A lot of people get in shucks with it, but this is It's a dead easy rig to understand. The basis of the rig is that all the line, the rod is held high and all the line is held above the water. We'll start at this end. Most important, 2 ounce bomb or 3 ounce bomb minimum. The reason that's got to be is because this rig relies on self-hooking and it relies on tension to the tip of the rod. When we're fishing out there on this rig, I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. The most important thing is, down at this bottom end, is 2 or 3 ounces of lead. I've got a bead. Now the bead stops the float jamming on there. Okay? Now, if we come down, just keep letting that go down there. The depth of this float, until it hits the swivel, is about 2 foot over the depth of the water. Okay? So that depth from that swivel to the bomb is about 2 foot over depth. Now the reason for that is because it will be fished back at an angle so that the rig can stop up. If you fish at exact depth, as soon as you try to get any tension back at the rod, what will happen is the float will sink and the bait will go underwater. Now then, from this swivel, this float, we've got a bead that stops that, again, jamming onto that swivel. Now going along, what we've got will come along this length, and that length of line is about 18 inches, 2 foot, and that gives it the distance that you want your bait there, the distance from that swivel. Okay? Let's go to the bait end. All that is a swivel there, 11-pound main line. It's really irrelevant because, to be honest, that line isn't on the water. And this line, which isn't on the water again because that will sit straight on the surface without this line actually being in the water, that I usually have a lot stiffer than that because then it doesn't tangle. Right? It'll just, as it comes done, look, away we go. Comes undone. So I'll usually fish that 15 or 20 pound. Good sharp, strong hook. Leave the barb clear, so when the carp comes up and picks it up, he'll get pricked. And then what happens then? He'll either bounce that onto the rod tip and get hooked, and the other thing is, down at that bomb, 2 ounces, because it's not going to move, he'll hook itself. Okay? That's the first rig, and a rig that I'll first give those fish out there because it's a fabulous rig. That's the beach caster rig. Here's a float rod. I'll show you that later. Here's the next rig. This rig, you can virtually fish any depth of water. Let's put the rod together first. It's a real advantage to have your rod set up in there because at the end of the day, when you arrive, those first 10 minutes, 20 minutes might be the only chance you've got to get in a fish. Now the last thing you want to be doing, to be honest, is tackling up. So you get straight in. Right, this rig, very, very simple rig. Very, very simple. All it is, go down to the bottom end. Again, a 2 ounce bomb, and that is free running, and what that will actually do is whatever depth of the water, that will go down to whatever depth. That can be 10 foot, 80 foot, it doesn't really matter. What will happen, that bomb will go to the bottom, this float will come to the top. The bead, that's to stop it jamming on that swivel again. And the float, slightly loaded, will sit upright. Then we've got a fixed pin at the end with a swivel on. And then we've got this length of line, and that's the distance between the float and the bait. super rig for if all of a sudden you see a fish out there on its own, you don't know the depth of the water, it's irrelevant because that bomb will sink right to the bottom, that float will come to the top, and there's a bait. Grease this line, normal grease that you get in any tackle shop. Grease the line so that's floating. Bait on the hook again, make sure that the hook point is showing, and there's another super rig. I'll show you one more floating rig because that's what we'll be starting off with, floating rigs. And this one, again, it's a very simple rig, very simple indeed. This one, there's no bombs. This is the one that you would stalk fish with. What it is, special float. Okay, special float. The line comes down, passes through the tip of the float, which is weighted, so that'll sit in the water up to about there. It goes through to a ring, put there, make sure the stop goes down to there, keep it nice and tight. That means that the fish will hook itself. If you have it running, let me just take that up the line, what will happen is the fish can move that far before he feels the weight of that float. That is what hooks the fish on this rig. So down to there, again, line, and this is a fairly lengthy piece of line. That's about 3 foot. You can go up to 6 foot. You can come down to a short distance. It depends on how often the fish are being caught. I tend to use longer and lighter line if they're heavily fished for. The fish today, they're so confident, I probably think you could catch them on 10, 12 pound line. Generally, I would keep to about 6 or 8 pound line to catch the fish on this rig. Okay, what we'll do now, let's show you the rigs in operation and let's catch a fish. Right, we'll now set it up. This is the rod rest, special rod rest. Let's get that firmly in because when we get a take, there's every chance the fish could pull that in. Especially cutaway. It was designed by Terry Eustace, that. Carp angler that knows what carp anglers need to do the job. Terry designed that super piece of tack. I'll show you how the rod fits in. Carp's still feeding out there. Low to the ground again. They're going silly out there. I would expect to fish straight away, to be honest. Now with this rig, lay the float out behind you. Nice easy cast, no snatches. Okay, over you go, look. Tether the line, in you go. I've cast it to the back of the fish, and now I'm going to bring it into the fish. Nice and gentle, don't bang it straight into the fish. Here it comes, rod high, okay, rod high, into the bait runner, so when it hooks it, it can run off. Now what you need to do is the binoculars, look at the bait to see if that bait's just sitting on the surface. It needs to come up a bit, so reel a bit in. That brings it up off the water a bit more. It's just sitting absolutely perfect. Little tip here is sometimes when a fish is close, just tap the line. Just tap the line and you can make it more attractive. So it's just dabbing on the surface. Lovely. Just put a few more baits around by that because the disturbance will just frisk them off a bit. Oh, look at that. Nearly a take. Just swirled. Sometimes the fish will wash it a couple of times. With the tail, they'll come up. As they come up, they'll swirl, hit it with the tail. Sometimes just nudge it. But if they come back, they're not frightened. If they don't come back, then that's a bit different. Okay, let's just go back. I'm not going to sit down because look at that fish right by the side of it. Oh, there's a fish just there. I should get a take. Should get a take pretty quickly. Just dabbing that bait again. Let's get the old glasses on, I can't see. That's better. Can you see the fit? Oh, nearly hooked. Oh. Something disturbed it, look. Oh. Thought I'd got one on then. Up again, get that bait up. See the fish I disturbed? Getting a bit of bait there. Put the bait round it. Oh. Fish all round the bait. Whoa, there we go, look. Oh. Fabulous, fabulous. It's only a small fish, but that was exciting. That was great. It's a small common. That was fabulous. Told you it wouldn't take long. It's only a small fish. It doesn't have to be a big... I mean, the excitement of this is the take. I mean, I like to catch 20 pounders the same as any other carp angler, but the takes on this side of the sport, the stalking and the surfacing, just small common. But there's big fish out there. What's that on there? Oh, I'll take you back to the... You'll notice that the float's out the net. A lot of people think that that would tangle. It's out nicely. It's down. Be steady now, old chap. Nicely hooked in the corner of the mouth. Just get that out nice and simply. We'll put that straight back. It's a small fish. There's no need to keep that. Gorgeous fish. See small mouth? With a bit of luck, there's some big mouths out there. Don't just throw it in from a height. Place it out nicely. Just because it's small doesn't mean to say that you need to treat it with any less respect than a 30-pound fish. It's a carp. And remember that that carp is your future. That fish, maybe in years to come, a fish that you'll actually be having your photo taken with. Let's get some more bait. Right, a couple of pieces. I think we're on for another couple of fish. I've put one on, threaded up the line. I don't like that one, that's too soft. Let's get another one. That's a bit of bait. How can they resist that? Right, here we go again. I'm going to cast it out, then I'm going to put some more feed in. Should have lots of fish here. Lay it out the back there. Feel the tension on the rod. Let the rod do the work. There's the tension. Over nice and easily. Feather it down. Back of the fish again, look. I'm going to bring it back to the fish. Reeling it back. Here we go. In again. On with the bait runner. Let's get the binoculars again, just to see how that bait is. Oh, perfect. There's fish showing all the time. Look at that. Oh. But don't just keep putting bait out. Remember, if there's a few baits out there and you hook a fish, then it's getting to the situation that most of the baits they're picking up has got a hook in. You know, if there's only 3 baits out there and they're only taking 3 baits before they get hooked, you're going to spook them. The thing to do is to get them taking lots and lots of baits. Then all of a sudden, boff, you're in. There's a fish right by the side there now. Oh, she's absolutely incredible. The feeding sequence that we've gone through is just showing its worth, really. If I'd have started fishing 2 hours ago, we wouldn't have had this happening. They're looking absolutely silly. It's like feeding a trout fishery at the moment. But that's how you can get them on the floater, especially early season. Look at them, they're attacking the float. They're doing all sorts of things. Having a ball of a time. You see, they've been eating for a few hours now. With complete confidence. Just check if that bait, because the carp's come up and washed it a couple of times. Oh! Just come short of the bait. Oh, I think it's only a matter of literally minutes before I can get a take. Just tapped it again. Oh. Look at the mouths around the float. That was a good fish. That was a good fish. Can't actually see the bait now. I don't know if there's a bait on. Let's just check it if I lift it up. Yep, there is. There's still a bait on. That is so exciting to see. knowing that any minute I could be having a fish. But this is what is happening at the bottom when you're fishing on the bottom. Fish are passing the bait, testing the bait, just touching the line, washing it over with the tail. All these things are going on. But of course you can't see them when, you can't see them when you're on the bottom. Here you can see them perfect. I'm going to put a fresh bait out. I'm not feeling so confident on that bait now. Actually there is. I didn't think there was a bait on, but there still is. Into the bait room. I'm going to stop putting the bait in now, and the reason being they're feeding so confidently, they're just picking up all the baits and they're just leaving mine at the moment. So, whoa, look at that. That's a little fish, but look at it go. Cool. I was just about to say, and it happened. What actually happened was I wasn't going to feed any more in, so they take the bait. It's another small fish, but no worry. Where there's small fish, there'll be bigger fish. Mirror. I haven't bought my net back, so let's get my net back. Lovely little mirror carp, look at that. Lovely little fish. On this rig, use almost any bait. In fact, it no need to float. You can actually use a boilie and fish it 6 inches under the surface. 6 inches under the surface. Look at that. Little mirror. Pretty little fish. See you when you get bigger. We'll catch a few of those fish, and then hopefully a bigger one will come along. But keep your eye out all the time. Although there's fish in this swim, there's lots of small fish. Keep your eye out, because you never know, there might be another swim where you can see some large fish. Get yourself mobile and move to the bigger fish. I mean, I'd obviously like to catch a large fish if I can, so keep scanning all over the lake. Don't just sit down on the chair. This type of fishing, I'm rarely using the chair. Just get this back out there again. Okay. Very important, this cast on this rig. Lay it out, tension on the rod, and that's the cast, and just slowly up in the air. Whoa, feather it down, down. I've cast away from the fish again, remember. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come, back into the fish. There we go. You see the bait swinging then? Into the bait runner. Let's see if we can get a better kipper this time. Well, I'll be honest, it doesn't, at this stage of the game, it isn't bothering me about the size of the fish, because the takes are incredible. I mean, that's the most exciting part. It's the most exciting part of fishing, isn't it? You know, the float going under, the bobbin dropping off, the quiver tip going round. They're always the most exciting times, and this is so exciting. I really do wish a lot more people would do it, because it's so exciting, a lot more exciting than just sitting down on the bed chair and getting to sleep and wait for a fish to hook itself. It's a good way of fishing, but it's not the only way of catching carp. Let's get the old glasses on again. Lots of fish out there. Lots of fish. Look at them take. Oh! Incredible. And again, look at that. You can see the effectiveness of this rig. I mean, this is sort of 3 cast, 3 fish. Another small fish. Another small fish. Play very carefully on this rig, because remember that between the one swivel where you've tied a knot to the hook is very there's a very short length, and there's no elastic on it. This is going well. These small fish. There's no stretch at all. So play very, very carefully on this rig. Very carefully. Look at this. Oh, it's a small fish, but look at it pull the string. The takes are fantastic. Without doubt, this is my favourite way of fishing. Ah, another carp, another take. Ah, sheer pleasure. A little mirror. Will soon be back in his home. Beautiful. 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 Put it on the mat. Hooks come out. Yep. Look at the colour of that fish. Beautiful colour. Keep him low to the ground. Look at that. Beautiful. Small again. Certainly worth catching. In you go. Let's just put a bit more bait out. There's some better fish for you. Lovely. Let's see what we've got here. I think we've got a bit of a mess. No. Here we go. Okay, some more bait. With a couple of pieces. Here we go. One, two. Make it a bigger one this time. How about that for a juicy little lump? Chuck that. See if there's a knot on that. You see if there's a knot, that won't run up. Ah, it is. It's okay. Throw it back. It's ever so simple, but people are frightened to use the rig. Tension it up, nice and easy. Look out into the swim, nice overhead cast, whee, just feather it out, lovely. Cast this rig, 100 yards, no problem. Pull it back, there we go. Seconds again, I would imagine. Absolutely devastating rig, this. If you're a carp angler, learn how to use this rig, because it is most incredible rig. The presentation is so good. And if you think about it, use it for all types of surface fish, rudd, whatever. Doesn't matter. You can use maggots, casters, or anything. Yes, smaller hook, no problem. Whoa, look at that. Just a slightly better fish. Fighting very, very well. Oh, look at this. Better. Gotta watch those lily pads, look, you see? Oh, watch the lily pads. Out of them. Somewhere near now. It's not that big. It's a common that's fought very well. She didn't go. Very fit fish. Very fit fish. It's a longer fish there. Common, as you can see, all the scales. Oh, I thought it was ready then. I think he is now. No? Come on, my little beauty. Let's have your nose up. Yep, there you go. Into the net. Woo! Another kipper to Desi. Actually, it's one of the lake's wildies. Whoop. Look at that. Beautiful long fish. There is a few wildies in here. Look at that. Oh. That's a gorgeous fish. Look how orange it is. Big mouth. Lovely fish. Let's put him back. Here you go. This time I've put a floating boilie on. If you look up on there on the rig, there's a floating boilie on, so we'll give them a bit of a change. I wonder if that'll sort a better fish out. There you go. Lovely. Here we go. Nicely back. Set up. Super. Oh, there's so many fish out there. It's unbelievable. What I'll do, just keep firing them out now. After this one, I'll show you the other rig. It's a nice little interesting rig. I mean, I could catch all day on this, but I'd like some fun on the other rigs. So I'll show the other rig. But this rig is, without doubt, for the surface angler, #1. Oh, look at that. Just give it a bit of a jockey. It's a nice orange bait, let the fish see it. There's a fish cruising up to it. Oh, stop the feed again so that the carp can whittle the numbers down to the one with the hook in. Slowly taking all the baits. Slowly taking all of them. Actually, there's a taking area just in front of my float. Don't just let it sit there. If you notice that there's an area that they're taking in, don't just sit there. Bring it right into the area. Like that, you see? Nearly had a take then straight away. Oh, trying to eat me float. I've got those fish so confident now. Unbelievable. This is not a one-off situation. This is a situation that you can have lots of times through the summer. If you've just listened to what I've said about selecting where the fish are, find the fish, get them feeding confidently, and then do the cast. Until you get into this situation, don't cast down. You can catch 10 a dozen fish in half an hour, so what does it matter if you're preparing the swim for 4 to 5 hours? It doesn't really matter. When you cast out, you've got to be sure you're going to catch. Going too early, waste of time. Oh, that bounced on the rod but didn't hook itself. I'm sure a lot of anglers don't like fishing this method because they've got to stand up and they've got to work. Too many carp anglers want to just sit there and wait for the fish to do the work. This method of surface fishing and stalking in general is off your chair, and going to the fish and working all the time. Just jerking that. Fish has got it. Look, I just jerked it right. Oh, perfect. Yep. You see that little twitch? Like any other type of fishing. If you're on the float on the bottom, you're just twitching the bait. It'll get a take. Another small fish. I think we'll call this a day on this rig. Let's just show you one of the other rigs at work. A lot of small fish out there. But believe me, this will catch a lot of fish. Oh, that one's come off. This will catch a lot of fish. 20, 30 pounders. I've had numerous fish over 20 pound on this particular rig. So I don't think that just because I'm catching small fish today, that it's a small fish rig. It isn't. Let's go and show you another rig. Here we go. Let's do the float rig. I don't rate it so highly as the beach caster, but to be perfectly honest, I don't rate anything as highly as the beach caster. The one big advantage of this is that you can get in tight spots. The beach rig, you have to have a fair space to cast in, and also to get into tight spots is difficult. It looks a clumsy method till it's out in the water. Then, as I've shown, it's not so clumsy then. This fish, this rig, will you'll see. I'm chuck it out there. The float, you'll see the float tilt over. Like that, then all of a sudden when you get a take, bump, over it goes. Keep it fairly taut to the... Did you see that? Crikey. Missed it. Looked a fair fish, that one, actually. Missed that one, good and proper. And again. Incredible boil that. Line straightened up. Did everything right except hook it. Still, it's all good fun. Let's fire some baits out. See the bait at the back of the float. Do better with the old glasses on, actually. There we go. He's got it there. Oh, here we go. And there you see that rig working. All good fun. A lovely sport. Lovely sport. He's only a little fish. Get him in the sack. Makes a joke of the net when you're landing big, small fish like this, but at the end of the day, all of a sudden, if you hook something about 30 pounds, you'd be wishing you got a net the size of this. Nicely done. Onto the hook. Out you go. Gorgeous little mirror. Let's put him back. I'm having a lot of problems with just small fish in the swim there now, actually. I think the best thing I can do is this. Oh, that was a better fish. Right over by the island, in under the shade, there's some nice fish starting to show. I've actually shot some boilies over there. Oh, look at this. Yeah. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to come off the controller and get over there with the beach rig. What I've got is I've got some floating boilies. It'd be very difficult to get these light baits over there, but I've got some floating boilies. I'll shoot the boilies over there, put one in the hook, get in the shade, because there's definitely some better fish there now. Let's have a go at one of those. There you go. Nice and tidy. See if we can get it at range. Right over by the island, that one. Let's see what that does. The farther the range, the higher the rod rest, because You need that angle to bring it off the water. We've got fish interested straight away, look. These are the floating boilers. There they are. What we'll do, we'll get some of those over in that swim and see if we can get a take. See, we can get these that distance. You can't get the other ones that distance. Lovely. Okay, let's get my binoculars, clean the swim back up. Let's have a look over there, see if we're in the water. Yeah, lovely. Definitely some better fish over there. Definitely some better fish. There the fish just wash the bait again. You see, instead of taking it strongly, hey, there we go. Right in the lily beds. Lift it high to get it out. With a bit of luck, it's going to come out. Yep. It's out. God, this is so hot. Oh, another very, very small fish, look. Very small fish. Another small common, look. Small fish. There you go. The law of averages surely says we've got to have a bit of fish soon. Oh, we've hooked that one under there. You see, they're not taking it properly. I'd actually hooked that one there. You see, the bait was there and it's rolled over it. It's given me a take and the hook's actually gone into the body instead of into the lips. Drop it back again. Pretty little thing. In you go. And away. I've lost my touch for the moment to getting the bigger fish, but still we're having takes, having sport. Over there again. Fresh baits on again. Here we go. Putting 2 baits on. See if we can go out again. Nice easy cast, look. Out you go. Oof. Look at as I cast out there, I spooked a lot of fish. It just goes to show that there's a lot of fish out there, but they're not taking so well now. Tiny little bit of feed. I'm not putting masses in now. Oof. Fish wash the bait again then. Get it sitting just on the surface. Hook proud. That's a little fish, but look at it go! Oh, it's a small fish, but look at it pull the string. It's another little fish. Another pretty little fish, look. It's gone hard now, and the only things that are actually picking up the baits are these small fish. But still, it's good fun. Not every carp can be 20 pounds. There we go. Pretty little fish. There you go. We've had a handful of little fish. And a cracking day. We could have easily had a bigger fish. There she goes. I think we've probably been a little unlucky, the amount of fish that we've had, and had no big fish. But if we did that every time we went out, we'd have big fish. You can say 1 in 3, 5 trips, something like that, you'd have a big fish. We did everything right except land that monster. We arrived, we found the swim where there was a lot of fish, and we've proved there's been a lot of fish in the swim, and there's been a lot of fish in there all day. Although they've gone a bit wary now, there's still a lot of fish in the swim, so pick the right swim. We've got to the swim. All day we've fished and we've not scared them, and that's a very important point. We've picked rigs that have caught fish. I've showed you rigs that are successful on any water in the country, and I've showed you a rig, the Beachcaster rig. For the first time I think it's been shown properly. For the first time it's been shown that it can catch an awful lot of fish. It's getting harder, it's getting hotter, and I think what I'm going to do after a super day, pack my gear up, perhaps have one walk round the lake, say ta-ra, a great session. See you again soon.